If you're thinking of living on an island in Washington and you think it would be magical, I want to tell you the truth about Pacific Northwest island living. Living on one of Washington state's scenic islands like Whidbey Island, San Juan Island, or Vashon Island might seem like a dream come true for those who want the peace and beauty that island life brings, but the reality of island life can be a lot more challenging than you might anticipate. So I want to talk to you about several reasons why you might hate living on an island in Washington state. And this is coming from someone who, me, used to live on an island here in the Pacific Northwest. So there's things I loved about it and plenty that I didn't. First one is a bit obvious, but it's an island. You have limited access to the mainland. Island living means you're often dependent on ferries or bridges to access the mainland, and this can quickly become a huge source of frustration. Washington State's ferry system is the largest in the US, but it often experiences long lines, delays, seasonal overloads, especially during the summer months or tourist seasons. Some ferry routes close due to inclement weather, and some islands are so small they don't even have ferry access. On Whidbey Island, residents who rely on the Mukilteo-Clinton ferry sometimes face hour-long waits, especially on the weekends or holidays or during rush hour. Commuting to Seattle from the island can add a ton of travel time, not only because of the ferry ride itself, but also because of the time spent waiting to board, particularly during those peak hours. There's nothing worse than being in a rush and getting to the ferry and just missing the ferry and having to wait another 30 minutes for the next one. So while peace and quiet of island life might sound appealing, the isolation can quickly become a downside. You've got limited access to social activities, medical facilities. That might make it feel like you're cut off from the rest of the world, and maybe that's what you're looking for, maybe not. Islands typically have limited access to healthcare services, so for specialized medical care or major surgeries, you often have to travel to the mainland to get those services, which honestly, it adds logistical complications, especially in emergencies. For example, San Juan Island has basic healthcare services, but it lacks specialized care, so islanders have to travel to the mainland for most of their treatments. Your social life can feel pretty limited, especially if you're young and you want to go out and experience an urban environment. There's fewer restaurants, fewer bars, theaters, shops. Island living can really feel repetitive, and options for entertainment are pretty sparse. Living on an island means that everything from groceries to construction materials has to be transported by ferry, boat, or bridge, which for obvious reasons raises costs. You have fewer options for shopping and services, and you often have to pay more for basic goods, mainly because of the cost of transportation to get those goods or services to the island. So islands typically have higher prices for groceries because the transportation costs for goods are passed down to the consumer. So islands like San Juan or Orcas Island, they're known for having marked up prices on groceries and supplies just due to the logistical challenges of restocking items. Islands often suffer from less reliable infrastructure, and residents can often experience power outages, internet slowdowns, water shortages, those things more frequently than people on the mainland do. Because of the isolation, it takes longer for utility companies or the public works to respond to outages or emergencies. So sometimes if you're out of power on Whidbey Island because of a windstorm, you're out of power not just for a day, but for a week. So storms or high winds can easily knock out power on islands more easily, mainly because you're on an island. You've got access to windier weather because of the ocean being right there. And restoration does take longer because of those logistical challenges. High-speed internet is also pretty inconsistent on the islands, especially on a smaller or more rural island like Lopez Island or San Juan Island. Broadband speeds often lag behind those in urban areas, so if you're a work from home, a remote worker, or a family that relies on stable internet, like a gaming family for connections for work or education, you might get frustrated living on an island. People often move to the islands expecting a more affordable cost of living, but honestly, housing prices on many of Washington State's islands have soared in recent years. This is particularly true in desirable locations like San Juan Island or Orcas Island, where there's really limited housing supply and an increasing demand from remote workers, which of course, the supply and demand issue has driven up prices of homes. On San Juan Island, the median home price is over $1 million, and in some areas, similar to many parts of Seattle or Bellevue. So even on less touristy islands like Whidbey Island, home prices have risen, and it makes it really difficult for first-time buyers or young families to afford a home. While the idea of island life in Washington might seem magical, there's a few reasons why not to move to an island. It really is essential to thoroughly research these, and if possible, experience island life firsthand before you make some sort of permanent move. So maybe rent an apartment first, go get a vacation rental for a few months, and experience what life would actually be like on an island. So if you're thinking of moving to an island in Washington, even after all the terrible things I just said about it, it's really important to interview and hire a knowledgeable agent that can help you find the right island and home for you. So if you need a recommendation or two for a really good real estate agent in the area you're looking in, click the link in the description and I'll connect you. I'm Nicole Service with the Service Group, a real estate team based out of Western Washington. If you found this video helpful, please like it. If you've thought about living on an island in Washington, leave a comment. I'd love to know which island you're considering.